Thank you.
You're welcome. Nobody's muted, so as soon as you turn it on, you should be.
It's 6.
I've got 6 o'clock, so we'll call the October the 8th Sherwood Planning Commission to order. Please call the roll.
Martin,
Here.
Abernathy, Jones,
Here.
Hoskin,
Here.
Patel,
Here.
Clough,
Here.
Middleton.
All right. Item number 3 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 10th meeting. Any comments, discussion? I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Martin,
Abstain.
Jones,
Yes.
Hoskin,
Yes.
Patel,
Yes.
Clough.
Yes. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there any
Yes,
adjustments?
there are a few items that are going to be voted on for tabling this evening. That will be item 7, the conditional use zoning code amendment, and then additionally 2 items under old business, the conditional use permit at 8900 Highway 107, and then the replat of Lot 16R, Block 9, Sylvan Hills Edition.
All right. With tabling that, we'll need a motion to do such.
I make a motion.
One second.
With a motion and a second to table those 3 items.
Martin,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Hoskin, Patel,
Aye.
Clough.
Aye.
Rezone request at 7800 Highway 107 from R1 and C1 to C3.
So this first item on the agenda this evening is at the intersection of Club and Highway 107. With that, the request is to rezone from C1, which has frontage and an existing 3,700 square foot office building structure located on site. And the addition of the lot to the east is zoned R1, which is unimproved. Before we get into the staff report, just staff analysis on a technical basis, I would like to note that ordinance 544 actually rezoned that property to split zone it intentionally to retain that buffer to the east. Typically nowadays, we do not split zone property. That is something that we consider during site development. So with that, staff does recommend approval of the application. There have been questions related to the use. The rezone request is sought to allow any uses permitted in C3, which by the zoning code is 120 of them. I can open it up for any questions. Can you list all of them? Maybe next time.
What is this property right here? What is that zone?
So that property across the road, that is C1, and then to the south of that is C3. So there is commercial zoning along this Highway 107 corridor. It is not uncommon. So this is essentially just for the rezone. I don't want to get down the rabbit hole of confusing rezoning with site development.
But this, hold on, I'm sorry, I'm getting in trouble. This section right through here, according to the comprehensive use plan, is not for that. It's for like offices, is it not?
So whenever the comprehensive plan was done, I'm sure you've noticed whenever you joined the commission, we sent out all of the information. So there's sections in Sherwood that do reflect current conditions, and this is one of those parcels that reflects current conditions or similar conditions to provide a buffer between more intense commercial uses and single-family residential. So staff would recommend, if the commission recommends approval of the rezone, we would come back with a land use plan amendment.
But correct me if I'm wrong, if you look at what can be put in a C1 versus a C3, there's a lot of uses that could go into that under a C3,
There are.
like a muffler shop and some other.
That's something, and there's a lot of hanging points, so it wouldn't be just like typical office space things like commercial uses, things anywhere from shops of that nature, no outside storage, to restaurants. There is a whole variety.
This item does require a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing at this time for anybody to speak for or against the item if they so wish.
Long time since I've been here. I'm Becky Vassar. I'm a resident off of Club Road. I've been here a long time and I've watched the development of that intersection. Justin Matthews Sr., businessman and developer, is credited with much of the development of that residential area out there north of the river. His plan included both North Little Rock and Sherwood, and all of this began following the construction being finished of the Broadway Bridge. The Arkansas-Missouri Highway, later to be 107 and JFK Boulevard, ran right through the middle of Mr. Matthews' property. He was one of the first, and the paving of Highway 107 was one of the first projects by the State Highway Commission. So we have a first right here in Sherwood. Mr. Matthews was responsible for much of the development of the Sylvan Hills community, along with the North Heights Highway, also known as the Artmo Highway, always also known as Arkansas 5, and now Arkansas 107. So all that time it's had a variety of names and numbers to it. A portion of the historical and governing body of Sherwood kept all of this in mind when zoning properties along this stretch of Highway 107. Tonight we're here to address another development that's interested in this area. Club Road, as it's now called, was a trail through the woods until 1960. Paul Power bought 7 acres and built a house at 803 Club Road, which later became the residence of Bill Harmon and his family. He had a gravel driveway built that ran from Club Road, from 107 to the low water bridge. Can you imagine Club Road being a gravel driveway, a private gravel driveway? Mr. Power was nice enough to sell some of the property, and by 1964 there were 5 houses there. Now there are many more. As Club Road developed, it ended into a T intersection, which is a traffic nightmare. Those of you that get caught there realize the problem, the traffic problem in that area. In the early 70s, State Representative Steve Goss, a resident of Club Road, with the help of a number of local officials, clipboards in hand, stood bravely at that intersection, and we collected signatures to get a traffic light, one we're very proud of. Fast forward, a traffic explosion has occurred since that time. We would like to have a quiet business continue in that corner. And I think Charlie's got some details that he can go into details better than I can.
For a point of reference, she pointed at me when she was talking about 1970. I was 7. And she was talking about my dad that helped back in 1970, not me. I gave y'all some.
Before you start,
Pardon?
please state your name
Oh, yeah.
for the
Charlie
record.
Harmon. Charlie Harmon, 601 Club Road, Sherwood.
Thank you, sir.
I should reveal, I'm a city council member, have been for 18 years. In the 18 years I've been a city council member, I have been motivated one other time to come before the planning commission, and that's all. And this is only the second time I've ever come before the planning commission. It'll be the last time, I assume, I'll come before the planning commission, because I'm out of office in 3 months. So y'all handle this right, and you won't see me again. Let's see. First of all, I want to talk about the accidents at the end of Club Road. She was talking about it being a T-section. I left you some photographs. The photograph on top happened towards the end of July. I don't have the exact date on it. You'll see it took out a power line. Second page shows where it put 5,300 people in the city of Sherwood in the dark when it took out that one power pole. And that day was over 100 degrees. I happened to be working at home that day. It was over 100 degrees that day, and we were out of power for over half a day. And most of those people, most of those 5,300 people, were out of power half the day before they could get that pole repaired. There's another accident I don't have the photograph of, but that pole got hit a second time between July and now, and it was a shorter time period that we were out of electricity, but they had done a temporary repair on the pole, and then they did a more permanent repair the second time. This last photograph happened 3 days ago. This is another accident at Club Road. You'll notice this accident, this car is actually sitting on the property that you're considering for rezoning today, which is the professional counseling property. And this is just an example of a few of the accidents just in the last few months that occur at the end of our street. And it simply can become a traffic nightmare depending on the traffic of one day to another. The things that add to our traffic problems, not just the morning traffic, the evening traffic, which starts now, it's starting about 4:45, 4:30, 4:45. It doesn't just start at 5 o'clock. People are leaving early. And then funeral home across the street. They were talking, you asked about the zoning across the street and it being C1, I think. That's a funeral home. And it's a very popular funeral home, Smith Funeral Homes, one of the largest funeral homes in this part of the state. And they have a number of funerals. They have a number of military funerals. And those military funerals now have about 10, 12, sometimes 15 motorcycles that escort them, which I think is a wonderful thing. But when that happens, the traffic backs up all directions, and we have traffic jams when those funerals happen, when any funeral happens, but especially when those funerals happen. So that traffic happens. And the traffic, the accidents, and the near accidents. I nearly got taken out by a guy in a Mercedes that just ran the red light bigger than Dallas the other day, trying to get home fast, I guess, and doing 60 miles an hour through the red light. If I hadn't hit my brakes fast enough and gone up on the curb, front of my car had been gone. And it's just, these are the things we can't take pictures of, but it happens at the end of this street all the time, this T intersection. Our alternative routes, when we're blocked up there, we can go down Penwood and go down Keel to 107. I don't think anybody would consider Keel and 107 a better alternative to anything, really. It's one of the busiest intersections in Sherwood. Our other alternative is to wind our way down Greenview, North Fairway, North Devon, North Fairway, Country Club, North Hills to 107 and North Hills, and that's the number one busiest intersection, I believe, in the city of Sherwood. And that, of course, is not a better alternative either. So, you know, this is, for the people that live in this general area, the best access out, the best way for us to get out to 107 and go wherever we're going. And that light that Steve Goss got put there is the way that we get out, because for years we couldn't go left. Everybody would go right, go to the Christian church, make a loop, and then go south on 107. This also is part of the entry into Sherwood, and when she talks about the zoning and the way that it's been zoned, if you think about your entry into Sherwood when you're coming north on 107, I think that's one of the nicest entries into Sherwood that we have, because you've got the golf course, you've got quiet businesses, and you continue to have quiet businesses. You've got the veterinary clinic, you've got the funeral home, and everything's, it's not high traffic. You don't have a lot of high traffic businesses on either side of the road until you get past Lee Avenue and getting on towards Keel, closer to Keel, and then Keel Avenue and beyond. It's where your high traffic businesses are and where they're zoned. And this is a difference that I love Shelby to death, but she and I will spar at council meetings now and then, because, you know, I believe that we do have the plan that says that, you know, this is going to be quiet business. And I think that plan is intentional. I think that is intentional. Whereas staff sometimes thinks, well, the land use plan says everything on 107 should be C3. So if it comes up as a C3 zoning, we should approve the C3 zoning and then just change the other plan to match. Well, you know, the fact that we, for instance, when we annexed Gravel Ridge, the bunch of the business leaders in Gravel Ridge said, we have C4 zoning in Gravel Ridge right now. We'd like to keep it that way. So the council said, okay, for C4 zoning on 107 in Gravel Ridge. But we certainly didn't mean that everything on 107 in Gravel Ridge was acceptable for C4. It's not going to be acceptable for C4. And there's people that aren't going to want C4 on the corner of a residential business. And I don't think when you say 107 is a C3 corridor, that you're saying everything on 107 is acceptable for C3. And I think if you look in anywhere else in the country, they'll have land use plans that says this is a C3 corridor, this is a C4 corridor, but you're going to find exceptions to that along those corridors. There's always going to be exceptions. And I think that Club Road is one of those exceptions. It's a quiet street. It's a T intersection. It's a high accident intersection. Historically, it's a high accident intersection. And it's part of the quiet, peaceful entrance into Sherwood coming down 107, the historical first entrance into Sherwood other than going down Country Club. And I think we need to keep it the way it is, and I'd appreciate y'all keeping it the way it is. Consider keeping it the current zoning, the current quiet zoning that it is. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to speak on this item?
Yes, I'm Thomas Pownell with Thomas Engineering, representing the applicant for this project. We are proposing, as you know, to zone it to C3. And leading in, I would say, in terms of a traffic signal, that's where you put your busy stuff. There's a reason Walgreens, CVS, and all that are at a traffic signal. They control the traffic. You don't want all the traffic in the middle of the block because then that just takes away the effectiveness of the traffic signal. So, though it may be busy, that's where you want your busy stuff. I mean, that's non-engineering terms, but it's pretty, but the best way to put it. In terms of buffering between land uses, to the east is it's either townhomes or multifamily, I'm not sure which, but it is not a R1 use. It's not a single family use. To the east it's either, like I said, multifamily or townhomes. And then also, another function of all these buffers is when you go to site plan review, the stringent buffering requirements, if we are rezoned to C3, redevelop it as C3, then the site plan review will also require buffering from us. Here to entertain any other questions you may have.
Commissioners?
I know we're just talking about the change of zoning. We're not talking about the development of it, but I'm just asking, do you know what the plans are?
Yes. Client did allow me to say we're proposing a redevelopment into a restaurant.
Okay, is a fast food or sit down?
Sit down.
Sit down, okay.
Just for clarity, it is proposed to have a pickup window, but not with a order board. It's just something like you would have at US Pizza where you just come straight through and pick it up. So that's what, I know you can and you can't consider what we're doing, but he's allowed me to say that for you. So it's considered a restaurant.
Okay.
So that requires our C3 zoning. Any comments from the commissioners?
Any more comments or questions? Okay. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.
I'll call the public hearing to a close. Commissioners, discussion?
How does, how does the ordinance play into this? So there's an existing ordinance that split the zoning. So what happens with that?
It would be, it repealed. Whenever the property is rezoned, the ordinance would go before council, and that's what they would vote on.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So right now, it's just one owner with two zoning, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The parcel is split zoned.
And that's something that this commission over the last, at least Rob and I, Mr. Middleton's and I's tenure has been trying to avoid. Because it's hard to define where that line is from a, property standpoint. So we like to make the zoning match the property lines. But that was a action that was done in the past by the commission. There's several others around Sherwood that were done that way as well. So we've been trying to not do that since then. We had one a few months ago that was that way too. Split that we cleaned up.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember.
Okay.
But this was something that the city council did. So at some point in time, they approved this at some point in time for this split zoning on this particular parcel, am I correct?
Correct. There's been a lot of things done over the years that are different than what we do now. And I can tell you.
How long ago was that done?
Well, I have the ordinance right here. It is 1983.
Okay, so it was done in the 80s then?
Yes. And this seems to be a typical practice just through research, like Blake was speaking to. Split zoning of property intentionally to promote development on one end per se, but to retain the buffer.
So I have a question. I know this was in 1983. Fast forward future 50 years from now, we might be encroaching into the residentials for development of the city.
So hypothetically speaking, 50, I can't speak to that. I don't know. I don't
No,
have
I'm
the
just
answer
saying.
to
I
that.
mean, it happened in 1983, and then there was like split zoning and stuff. Right now,
Right.
everybody wants development in town, and we have a buffer in place. But then, how far are we willing to?
Right. So just this, for example, this parcel is presently split zoned. We all know that at this point. There is existing R2, and this is multifamily housing, a smaller scale. And typically when we're looking at things of this nature, current day, we're looking to find some type of buffer zoning and use in between intense commercial uses, as they call them, regardless of the intensity or not per se. And then that single family residential use. We don't want hard commercial zoning against single family. So at some point, yes, you draw the line.
Okay.
It's appropriate.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve to rezone SC3.
Do we have a second? Fails to get a second.
Mr. Martin, if I may.
Yes, sir.
A point of clarification, Mr. Cobb. If it fails by a second, is it allowed to come back in for the next? Allowed for a reapply?
They can pass it. If they want to table it to next month, they can do that.
Given the light of the failure for a second, I'd like to request that we delay this to next month.
Do we have a motion to table it as requested by Mr. Pownell?
I'll motion to table it.
Yeah.
Second?
I'd second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Martin,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Hoskin,
No.
Patel,
Aye.
Clough.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 6, please.
Waiver request at 5980 Wadley Road.
Okay, this next item on the agenda, it's an existing commercial site. It is zone C4, and a new company is coming in. They're taking over the building. It is called Caliber Collision, and you've had your packet, if there's any additional questions after this overview of information. But long story short, they're,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just-
Sure.
I want to be clear about what just happened. There was a motion to adopt the zoning. Listen to what I'm saying, Charlie.
Yes.
Which did not get a second.
That's correct.
Okay, so there could have been another motion, like to deny it. It could have,
That's correct.
okay.
But that didn't
But then
happen.
instead there was a motion to table,
That's correct.
which was voted and passed.
That's correct.
Okay.
So it is,
Your rules are different than the council's. Because in the council, if we fail to get a motion, it fails. An ordinance fails for the granting of a second. It's failed, it's done.
there's,
We
n- the,
can't do anything else after that.
I
That
think
is-
it was appropriate to let the commission make another motion.
so it'll be just like it is
We're fine.
again in November,
I just
November's
want to be
just like it
clear
is.
that that's my interpretation. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine, that's fine. Make sure we get it.
That's all right.
Okay, back to item number 6.
okay. Would you like me to start over?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this next item on the agenda is an existing commercial structure, like I had said. It is presently zone C4. This is not a discussion or a vote for the use or anything related to that. It is simply a request on behalf of the applicant for security purposes to fence in an area within the setback. In addition to that, it being a 6-foot fence. In the past, we've done this. This is not something out of the ordinary as it pertains to commercial uses and fencing for security needs. On your screen, did y'all all have a time to look at this? Okay. So what it is, there's going to be 2 gates. The fire marshal has approved this. The fence is going to come out here, head to the east, and it's going to abut the island that's existing. And so the request is for a 6-foot fence. I want to say a year ago we did a like request for River City Hydraulics. So it's just not something we can approve at staff level, hence why it's before you this evening.
Discussion by the commission?
And I will say, with their taking over of this existing structure, in addition to the fence, they are proposing to make it more aesthetically pleasing out front with additional landscaping.
And this is gonna be a fence that's got slats in it, so
Correct.
when you drive by, in theory, you're not gonna be able to see what's behind it.
Correct. They are an automotive collision service, so for customer security, certainly. And you will not be able to see what is behind the fence. That is the intent.
And just so that I'm clear on this is not gonna be a situation to where we approve this fence and a year from now, there's razor wire across the top of that fence.
That is not permissible in C4.
Okay.
No.
Well, I see that in some cities.
Right.
You know, you've got a facility like this, and to keep people from climbing over the fence and breaking into the
Right.
cars, they put razor wire up. I mean, I understand why they put it up there, but that's not allowed by what we would be doing.
No, it's not. That the zoning is what dictates that. That is only allowed for security purposes in I-1.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So it appears that the landscaping is on either side of the fence. Like there's holly, the needlepoint holly on the interior side, and looks like crepe myrtle is on the exterior side, which seems like it should all be on the exterior side of the fence.
So they're actually running on the outside.
around
This
it.
line right here, this heavy boundary line is,
Yeah, where is
Is the property
fence
line.
running? Oh, I see it. No, sorry, I
It
I
is
was
all
looking at
very
the wrong line.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, not a problem.
yep, I see it. But I lose it though, once it comes past that first entry. Where does it go? It's either not on the plan or it's on another line. So see, it comes down here. This is the fence line? Oh, gotcha, okay. Oh, I gotcha. Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the waiver.
Second.
Yeah.
Martin,
Call the roll. Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Hoskin.
Aye.
Patel.
Aye.
Clough.
Aye.
Preliminary plat of Trammell Woods subdivision.
All right, so under old business, this is the preliminary plat for Trammell Woods Estates. So what this is, of course, is a 52 lot subdivision. We've been working on this diligently with the engineer for some time. With that, there were 2 conditions tied to the approval, and I will go ahead if you would like to speak to one of the modifications that the applicant is requesting. Okay, so up here, along Trammell, adjacent to Tract A, the applicant did incorporate sidewalks on Trammell Road to the northeast side of the subdivision. They're requesting, though, a modification to not include sidewalks to this portion. So that would be a condition of the approval this evening. And then that is one of the items. They did request that. The other one is from a staff perspective and just from street names. With the NG 911, there's been a lot of emphasis on differentiating to prevent confusion. So the other was for a topic of discussion related to the street names, Trammell Woods Lane and Trammell Woods Circle. So with that, engineering verified the drainage analysis, and staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat.
Can you go back up and show that sidewalk again?
So this is the area that they are requesting the modification and not place sidewalk.
Right.
The right-of-way is dedicated, so that's not the issue. It's just for a deviation basically from the sidewalk requirement on this side. It is incorporated to this other side.
I can't, wait a minute, that would be back to the east, right? Correct.
Yes, this all ties in. There is sidewalk proposed.
But is there sidewalks over here in this other one?
In the Trammell State Drive, or?
Yeah, when you,
Over on this subdivision, no, there's not. We adopted Vision 2040 and all of its components early in '23, and now we stringently adhere to that moving forward. So they are proposing the sidewalks in this location of the subdivision. This is just where the modification is being requested. And staff supports that request. We see no issue.
so at some point in time, we actually approved the subdivision along a road that federal monies was used to build at some point in time, and we approved it with no sidewalks?
So sidewalks, these are parts of the improvement that the developer places on site.
But again, this track A over here, that's basically the swamp, is it not?
It is.
It's not like nobody's gonna be walking that direction
Right.
anyway.
Trammell Road, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, not building the sidewalk on lot 834 would
The
be
connection within
would be
this
a-
proposed,
sidewalk to nowhere.
The
Yeah.
sidewalk to nowhere.
right.
Right.
But
On
these in
834.
the proposed subdivision will tie into existing on Trammell Estates
Yeah,
Drive.
that'll make it continuous
And-
back over there. Yeah.
Right.
Any more discussion?
So those backlots are in floodplains, right? They're gonna raise it up?
Yes, so there will be a letter map revision based on fill. Fill will be brought in 1 foot above that established base flood elevation, and that will be filed through FEMA. And that all will take place during site development, post preliminary plat approval.
And this will have HOA?
Yeah, there is POA proposed, yes, and they will take ownership of all the tracts of land.
All right, is there a,
Motion to approve the
Yes.
preliminary plan?
It meets
Yeah.
all of our requirements,
that's what, yes.
and that
You so
would be
choose.
with the
Let's-
waiver, the modification. And then also addressing the street names.
We can, they can be addressed by at final plat time too. We can change them
We can-
between
that's-
now and then, so,
yeah.
yeah.
All right, so I make a motion to approve the preliminary plan with the waiver request, is that,
For the
For the
sidewalk,
sidewalk.
for the sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that sufficient?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call roll.
Martin.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Hoskin.
Aye.
Patel.
Aye.
Clough.
Aye.
Discussion, chapter 14.18 of the Sherwood zoning code regarding residential care facilities.
Okay, so this item is under new business on the agenda, and this comes concluding last month's city council meeting. I don't know the level of involvement you have with being current, but the rezone application for 8900 Highway 107 prompted this discussion. So the use for a residential care facility is strictly permitted conditionally in R3, which is multifamily, typically large scale. So the council requested that staff bring forth before the planning commission recommendations to amend the schedule of uses to incorporate some type of appropriate commercial zoning district where a residential care facility would also be suitable. So with that, there's nothing before you this evening because it's just amending. And again, this is no vote, just a discussion. We will have to schedule a public hearing next month. But with that, staff would recommend that we retain it as a conditional use in R3. There are multiple unrelated individuals potentially that would reside in a facility that would be by conditional use, the same as the process we follow now, and then also doing it conditionally in C3, so general commercial zoning, where it would also be by conditional use. So I'm open for discussion, thoughts, opinions. If
Simply-
you agree, if you disagree,
Just simply adding that one more to the list.
yes.
Yeah, okay. Yep, that will require a public hearing, so we can't make a action on it tonight. We'll have to have a public hearing on it next month. So, for the information of the council, the commission.
Yes.
Yes, okay. That is the agenda. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Martin?
Aye.
Jones?
Bye.
Hoskin? Patel?
Aye.
Clough?
Aye.
Yes, ma'am, certainly. So, building plans, whatever's next, you can get those reviewed. Okay.